through that. So thank you all for coming to the conference firstly, and thanks Alicia for having UBIC here. If you're not sure who UBIC are, if you haven't heard of us by some mystery of chance, we are website providers, but we take our website approach a little bit differently. So we think really creatively about how we deliver websites and the data that we can use to empower schools. So the way I like to describe it, which my boss probably won't be very happy with, is Google Analytics on acid. So think of the granular level of detail that you can get from that data. But this isn't a sales pitch. I'm not here to sell. I'm not on the sales team. As Alicia said, Ben was supposed to be giving this presentation, but he's unfortunately fallen ill. So I'll be taking it and doing my very best to explain to you what he was going to be talking to you about today. So a bit about myself. I'm Maddie. I've been in the education industry for about 3 years now, and I fell into the education industry just kind of by accident. At the time, I was scrounging around for a job. I wanted to be in marketing. I knew I wanted to be in marketing, and I fell into the school uniform sector, which, as it sounds, is as dry as it sounds. And I quickly found out, oh, I don't quite like working with school uniform, but I do really like schools. I really like this community and culture that schools have to offer as something that I didn't have when I was at school. So I then went down the route saying, okay, I really want to work in a school. And I went to work at an amazing school called St Chris in Hertfordshire. I was there for about 1.5 years. And these were the best couple of years of my life. I absolutely loved it. And then I thought, I want to get back into working with more schools because I really enjoy the PD aspect of it. And that's where I found UBIC. And I came in as the head of marketing just 3 months ago. So they're really throwing me in the deep end with this one. And I've actually stepped into Ben today, and on my way here, I did have to bring my child, and now mother. So this is Kenny. He came in the car, and I didn't drug in. He was just very stressed out by a 2-hour drive. So he's with my parents today, but I thought it'd be quite cute to jump in because I know you guys have been sat listening to us all day. So to start off, this is the presentation format that I'm going to follow today. So we're going to talk a bit through the doom and the gloom. I know we've shared a lot about the doom and gloom today, so I'll try and keep that as succinct as possible. And then we're going to go through what the problem is and how we're going to overcome that using something called personalisation. This is something you might be familiar with. I think we all do personalisation in our emails when we send our colleagues an email or we send an admissions inquiry an email. But are we doing it on scale, and what impact can that have on our prospective families? So I'll guide you through this presentation. I'm going to start with the ideas that Ben's brought together around the sector and the challenges we're facing at the moment. So the first one being that obviously we're facing some extreme headwinds, things I think that we, especially when I was in an independent sector, sort of headed against and was like, it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. Obviously then it happened, and we just had to suck it up and get on with it, unfortunately. So we all know that, and I won't go on about VAT in too much detail. But as an impact of that, because of VAT and because of the decline in birth rate, we know that enrolment is declining, and we're having to fight more amongst ourselves to get some prospective families on board. And then there's also a lot of economic and political factors, which Sally spoke about earlier, and as Sally also spoke about, and Sarah in detail, that real impact is yet to be realised. I mean, Sarah was touching on earlier about how it might be years until we actually understand what impact that's going to have on our sector. So it's really important going into this, trying to be as vigilant as possible and testing things out and being brave and being innovative. And I don't really watch anything to do with Bear Grylls. You can tell this was made by Ben, but he wanted to put a Bear Grylls analogy in here in improvise, adapt and overcome. We want to not just survive, but also thrive in the market and make sure that we are one step ahead of the curve. So here's some facts and figures. Again, it's all just very doom and gloom. There's an overall enrolment decline. There's a Year 7 intake drop. New pupils are down, and there's specific school impact. So we're seeing about 20% drop in new pupils in some schools where they're really struggling. So I won't go into those in too much detail because it's quite depressing. So this is some more detail around that, and we know, looking at the sector, that those smaller schools are having a disproportionate risk factor in that if you have 100 pupils, losing one student is going to be a massive economic impact on your school. Whereas if you have 100, losing one family, it's not going to be too much of a difference. But if you look as well at the year 6 and 7 entry points, so if you're a senior school or a prep school, you'll find that you're having some struggles there based on that drop in birth rates, which we're just seeing come through. And then we also need to think about demographic changes and VAT policy, as we spoke about today, and the impact that they're going to be having. So with all of these factors, the inaction is not an option. We need to be brave. We need to think about how we're going to do things differently and how we're going to approach those customers. And Ben, again, you can tell he likes rugby. He's got the goalposts here from a rugby game saying that the goalposts have moved. So we're really having to aim and be really targeted in our marketing, which we might not have been previously because we might be riding on the coattails of our reputation or know that we can attract a certain type of family. Whereas, as Sally was saying earlier, some people are now considering whether they even send their child to an independent school. So this is an analogy that Ben came up with and he's really proud of. And it's that idea that we are all fishing boats on one lake. We're all aiming to reach the same end goal, right? We're trying to cast our net and reach as many people as possible so we can sell our fish in the market and we can do really, really well. But we recognise that lake is getting smaller. There's a drought and there's more boats on the lake, it seems. They've all come out of nowhere. And these big schools with big budgets have massive, massive nets and really, really nice bait. And we've just got some little worms that we got from the shop and we can't get anybody in. So we are scrambling around. But to do this, we know that we need to be smarter. You know, we might not have the biggest net or we might not have the right bait, but maybe we can fish in a different area. Maybe we can move our boat. Maybe we can make our offer more attractive. So by using precision, agility, and tailored bait, which is personalisation, and your emission strategies to attract and keep your catch, you can really bring your marketing strategy up a notch. So it's really hard and difficult. I think we can all sympathise with each other. It's so difficult in this climate to recruit those families. But can we continue to rely on traditional elements of marketing? If you look at your budget, I know when I was in schools, I'd say to my boss, I just don't believe in print marketing. I'm quite a young person, so maybe I'm a bit different in that element. But I'd say, well, do we need to spend 60 grand a year on print and all these prospectuses that are going out of date and then we're putting them in the bin? Personally, I didn't think so, but it's finding that balance of working out what is effective for your school. Even if you feel a certain way about traditional marketing and you feel like it has a place in your budget, think of your prospective family and what they want, not yourselves. I think it's really difficult because you care so much about your schools and you know your schools, you're there every day, but what you think might not actually be the right answer. So personalisation, I think, is the key differentiation in a competitive market. So these are the problems that you're facing. It's no longer a luxury to personalise your approach. So I'm just wondering, in this room, can anybody who's bought something in the last week put their hand up? Oh, we don't spend a lot of money in this room. Okay. And can you keep your hands up, or put your hands up again, if you had an amazing interaction with the person or the company that you bought from to the point where you felt like they really cared about your business? Okay, so one hesitant yes. So that's what you're dealing with in the market. You know, when I buy things, I don't feel like the company gives two hoots about what I'm buying or the reason why I'm buying it. But as a prospective family, you want to feel as though your clients or your prospective families really, really care about their business because they're spending an obscene amount of money in some cases if they're going to boarding and they're going to a more expensive school. So really think about how you can make that difference in such a crowded market. So by doing that, you're moving beyond a generic approach. You can send out generic brochures, you can give some advertisement about your open days, but what impact is it going to have? Could you change it slightly so you use personas that resonate with different families, for example? If they've got a child who's really interested in sport, can you showcase a case study about a child who's doing really well in sport and the scholarship they're on? All these different ideas. And Ben was speaking to me previously about, in the 17th century, it was actually the first time a school brochure was made, and it was actually personalised. It was a letter that went out to these prospective families, invited them to join an open day. How many schools are doing that now? Personally inviting families? Not many. Okay, you're doing it. Well done. One person in the room is doing that. So you want to create an experience that resonates with those families, that impresses them and makes them feel like you want them to be part of this community, because that's what it is. Going back to my first point, it's a community. That's what people are there for. So going on to the next slide, the opportunity is definitely there. So we had one person in the room who said that they felt like the business really, really cares about their purchase. And only 15% of families feel that schools send personally relevant materials. So you might be in a place, I know I was in a place when I was a school marketer, I would send everybody the same stuff because I just didn't have the time to think about segmenting this audience in 10 different ways. It just seemed impossible. But there are things to do, there are things you can put in place so that you can reach, you can be part of that 15%. And people can say, wow, I was really wowed by that school's marketing. They really care about my child. And they listen to everything that I said with very little effort. So these are the benefits of taking a personalised approach before I go on to how we're going to do it. So you can stand out from a competition. So using a tailored approach demonstrates that you really understand and care for that family. And then you can build your stronger relationships. So if I came up to you and said, sorry, I spoke to you and they said, sorry, what's your name? Rather than saying, oh, hi, Alicia. I really enjoyed that conversation you had the other day. That was great when we were talking about our dogs. And it seems like we actually care and there's a really good rapport there. So by doing that, you're going to make families feel really valued and really part of that community, and they can see themselves being in that community more so. So you're bridging that gap. So we put this into a funnel. So you're basically, the way that you would work in terms of personalisation is you'd start with that personalised engagement. So this is a point where families feel they're heard and they also feel that they're seen. Now, how are we going to do that? There's so many different ways that we can do it. Personalisation doesn't mean sending out individual emails to every single family, because who has time to do that? I wish I had time to do that because I'd probably get more results, but I do not have the time to do that. So we can do that by generating landing pages. So this might be creating a website landing page that's maybe a little bit different. There's 5 different variations of this same landing page, but one focuses on academics, one focuses on finances for a family that's more financially averse. And then you could also give content suggestions. So this is something that, shameless plug, we do at UBIC. We work with schools to give content suggestions to prospective families on the website. So our website will learn their behaviour on the website and show them more content like the content they've engaged with. So they're really getting that content that they value. And then also personalised communications that extends anywhere from your email strategy all the way through to your socials. So are you thinking about setting up social automation? So someone comments on a post, you're sending them a message. All things that are really, really easy to do and just require a little bit of tweaking here and there every now and then. And the behavioural analytics is something I spoke a little bit about at UBIC. And what we do at UBIC is we really empower our clients to know who their clients are, who know who their prospective families are, down to their online behaviour, so their preferred browser, all the way to here's a drafted email on how you should approach this customer because they really like informal language. And you'll get that for every single customer who has filled out a form on your website. So we've got some really good data available for schools that is having a massive impact on their admissions. So from doing all of those strategies, you're then going to create a positive brand sentiment. So parents are much more likely to choose your school as compared to the 3 other schools that send them generic stuff and clearly don't really care about their child and just want money in their pocket. So why should we care about it? Why should we do personalisation when we're so busy? We're doing everything else under the sun. So personalisation really allows families to feel valued and feel special in a crowded environment. And it also gives them relevant information. We know that most parents are really, really busy working individuals. A lot of them might have their own businesses or multiple businesses for that matter. And by giving them relevant information, we are breaking through that space and not clouding their judgment any more than needs to be crowded. They've got exactly what they need and they can make that decision for themselves. It's all about empowering them with the right information at the right time. So in this way, by doing all these things, you're going to get a greater psychological investment from those families because they're going to feel like you really cared and nurtured for them throughout this whole process. It's not just a marketing effort, but it goes all the way down into enrolment and then beyond enrolment as well. So if you're able to achieve all of this, brilliant, you can then increase your conversion rate. Woo! And I think what's really important to think about this is marketing's evolved. I think it evolves every day. There's new things happening. AI is obviously evolving at a rapid rate and we are increasingly using it more in our processes. Have you evolved your strategy from 10 years ago? Are you still sending the same prospectus, the same leaflet with a few updated images? Have you looked at your copy? Do you have a clear brand voice? Do you understand who you are and the difference between you and your main competitors? Are really integral questions to ask. So in terms of personalisation, it's all about making families feel truly valued. And Ben here has included a couple of examples of an email. So we have one email on the left, which has a lot of detail saying, I spoke to you recently about this, and I remember that you mentioned that you really like academic excellence in STEM. Here's some 3 key points that I think you'll find interesting, and a personalised page that I've made for you. Fantastic. Claire's going to be really happy with that email. And then we've got another email on the right, which just says, dear prospective parent, straight away, red flags are up. I'm like, okay, you don't care. I've told you my name. I filled in a form. Why aren't you using it? So that's 2 examples of how dramatic the shift can be. And for me, especially looking at the subject line, that's a lot more engaging for me to open it. So thinking about your language and the way you're communicating with the school, what I like to do when I write emails at UVic is I think about how I talk to my best friend. I don't use any salesy language. I don't do like a colon. I say, oh, hi, it was great to meet you today. And obviously there are some parameters in terms of, is that appropriate for your school, around voice? But I think when you've built this relationship with prospective families, it's really important to acknowledge that and continue that relationship, and don't just go all formal when they're not used to that and they'll get their backs up. So that's all around tailoring your interaction and communications based on what you know about them, and create a unique experience. So you can do that by creating personalised landing pages and having that personalised approach. And then you could also develop your connection and loyalty all through these approaches. And then there's the examples of the one-to-one personalisation. So, as I said earlier, it's not about just surviving, it's about thriving in the space, which seems ever more impossible every single day. But personalisation, we believe, is the solution to this, and it's something that's becoming increasingly popular in the school space. So we know that enrolment decline is a real challenge. We know that it's a reality. We don't need to think too heavily about that. But personalisation could be the solution to that, because it's a strategic imperative. So you might find that converting families is a real challenge. You might find that you're getting a similar number of interests and a similar number of impressions on your website, but actually getting them to come to an event is the challenge. Personalisation is a real key thing for that. You can develop tailored content towards them that encourages them to take that process, reminding them with bite-sized information that they can book a visit here, and it's really low effort for them. So to do that, you need to stand out, you need to build relationships, and that in turn will increase your enrolment. Again, as schools, we're communities. People are buying into communities. Obviously, they're buying into a world-class education, and they want their child to do very, very well in life. But also, a large part of that is the community aspect. So you can start personalising now. You don't have to spend any money. Again, my CEO will be like, oh my God, but you don't have to spend any money. You don't have to buy anything. You can just go away and set up some automation processes really easily that go beyond your standard level email personalization, for example. So you might start collecting different forms in your admissions fields. For example, you might ask them what their key area of interest is, and then generate some content around those different key areas of interest, and create an automated email workflow which pulls through those key areas of interest. So going back to the sport thing, don't know why I always go back to sport, but I think it's a good one. Someone filled in a form and says, I'm really interested in sports scholarships. So send them a personalised email saying, thank you so much for signing up for the open day or for inquiring. Recently, Jackie in year 10 had a sports scholarship, and she's going on to compete at a national level. That's a really good value add for that person, who all they've had to do was do a drop down on a form. So there's 3 examples of how UVic can help, and this is the pitch element, which I'm not a salesperson, I'm not here to sell, but we do a lot of things at UVic that can help you to achieve these goals and to make it feel a little bit less daunting. The first being what we call our DXP, so that's the digital experience platform, and this is a massive platform in the school space at the moment that our schools are really, really enjoying and doing some incredible things with, and we very much describe this as the cornerstone of personalisation. So I'm sure all of you are familiar with the UTM. We have a really sophisticated UTM tracking system within the DXP, which can break down all of our prospective families into personas. So I think when we look at our website traffic, we're like, oh, we've had X number of families, but we don't realise there's some alumni coming on there, there's some prospective families. We might want to break down those prospective families even further to prep school interested families if you have a separate prep school or senior school or nursery. So we have the levels to do that through a sophisticated tracking system. And that will tell you as a whole that group behaviour, but also I was talking about earlier, that granular individual behaviour, which will really empower yourselves and the admissions team. Another great idea is you're looking at your comms and a chatbot. So we recently launched a chatbot here at UBIC, and AI chatbots are absolutely brilliant in terms of bringing that resource level down on your admissions team who are having to constantly answer those admissions inquiries. They don't have to wait for an answer. The person on your website, they can go on, they see something about an academic scholarship, they can pop a message in the chat saying, oh, my child is in year 8. Would they be eligible for the chatbot? So for the scholarship? And that chatbot will come back straight away and say, yes, they're relevant for this because X, Y, and Z. So it'll alleviate some of that pressure and also gives your families a much better experience. And then finally, the personalised pages are for specific people. So we've also got another tool here at UBIC which enables you to create personalised pages en masse. You've seen this, other companies do this, but we do this really, really well, and we do this with very light touch for our schools. So you generate your own landing page for a specific segment of people. Say you've got a group of people coming up to your open day and they want to attend the open day, they've booked on to do it, and you want to create a specific landing page for those attending with all the key information they need for the day and then beyond the day. You can then tailor that based on loads of different specific fields that they've filled out quite easily within a matter of seconds. So that's everything today. I have just word vomited on you, so sorry about that. But if you do want to connect with me, I am on LinkedIn. I'm very active on there. I'm very much having a rant all the time. Or you can drop me an email if you did have any other questions. But obviously, I'd be more than willing to take questions now from anybody that did have any. Or you're just too stunned to speak. Yeah?
Look, when you're looking over your shoulder at the competitors and they're all doing prospectus.
Yeah.
But like a printed book, and some are sending one to a very personal girl in there. And you get tempted, and then I think actually the data from our families, our current families, say, we're in London, they all want to be eco-conscious,
yeah.
They don't like printed stuff, so I'm trying not to stuff bags full of things. But they also like really glossy, really nice brands and everything to be really posh. But so how do I cover this? Do I just say, yes, okay, I'll go with printed, if that's going to annoy them?
Yeah, I think for me, I've had this issue before, right? So we produced some really, really nice curriculum information guides to give to people. And we're like, yeah, that's great. They're like 8-page booklets that went to prospective families. And my boss was like, yeah, this is brilliant, like people are loving them. And the head was like, oh, people are complaining because we're printing loads of money and obviously we just put the fees up. And I was spending like loads of money on these things. So I fully get it. And I think the balance there is both a cost balance and an eco-friendly balance, right? I think looking at how you can be more efficient in what you're using. So for me, in my experience, I wouldn't send anything printed to somebody who's not even had a touch point. They've not even come into the school. I just think, to speak candidly, it's a little bit of waste of money. They're going to sit with that stuff on their table with 5 other prospectuses. You've got a 1 in 5 chance of actually having them come to your school. And even then, they're not going to keep it. They don't want to keep that booklet. It's not going to be relevant to them. So for me, I would look at it on a customer funnel level and say, okay, we're taking this approach for this funnel. And then when they get further down, we're going to send them printed material because we know they like that. And even at that point, you'll have enough touch points to be able to make that decision. You can ask them directly, how do you prefer we communicate with you? And the parent will really appreciate that, to say, oh, would you prefer us to communicate in print or email? It's like you get when you go to a bank. A really weird analogy. When you go to the bank and say, do you want us to email you, do you want us to text you, or do you want us to send a letter? I will always text me, don't send me anything in the post, but my dog will rip it off. So I think that's really important in terms of, you don't have to have one approach for the whole funnel. You don't have to say, we're not doing print anymore, that's it. Say, actually, we'll do print, but only for the families that have made that investment and they're going to bring their bodies into the school. Yeah?
Yeah.
Hello.
We have a question from online.
Oh, okay, hello. Yeah?
So, from Nicole, how do we create a variety of tailored landing pages? What would the URLs be, and how do you get them to get it? or them to their target audience?
Oh, wait, what was the name, sorry?
Nicole.
Nicole, hi Nicole. Wow, it's a big question and probably one for our development team, to be honest, rather than me, but I will do my best to explain it. So what you'll do is you'll create a specific landing page. So you might have a segment of your audience who, again, going back to academic scholarships, have told you they are interested in academic scholarships. So a group of, let's say, 20 people. And they've given you several bits of information. They've told you their child's name, they've told you their name, they've told you what year of entry they're looking for, and they've told you what their interest is. You would build this landing page with loads of different content blocks within it. Stay with me here, it's going to get complicated. So there's going to be loads of different content blocks, all the variable content blocks from that group of people. So you'll have not the name level, but let's say their interests. There might be 10 different interests within the group. So you'll build 10 different content blocks within that page. And what our system will do is we'll feed in that data and it will generate multiple pages based on their specific interests. So you'll then get 20 different pages that all have the relevant details in, that are all personalized, and it would generate a unique link to you. So it'd be a link that isn't very easily guessable. It'd be a really unique link for them. And all you have to do is either copy it and put it in an email, or even better, you can automate in the system to send it out automatically. So if you had people come into that segment again, you then would be able to add more people into it and automate even more. So it's really light lift for everybody involved. Yeah?
Any more questions, Dave?
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you so much.